I wanted to start the talk with this image of our 2017 meeting, which was in Honolulu. I've been on the board of the International Mokuhanga Conference since it began, and when it first started in 2011, I really didn't understand what it was about. But the 2017 meeting was when everything kind of came together and everybody worked together and everything happened perfectly. I think a lot of it had to do with Setsuko Morinoe and the Morinoe family in particular, because the woman who initiated the Japanese woodblock programs that affected me so strongly died in 2017. She died in January of 2017, and nobody found out about it until April. So Setsuko kept emailing me and asking, well, what's going on? So Setsuko ended up doing a lot of the organizational work for this conference. She did it very well with her usual generosity of spirit. And I'll talk a little bit more specifically about it, the sequence of conferences, but the one in Honolulu was especially great. And we have about 200 members maybe who come to most of the conferences. This is me. My name is April Vollmer. I moved to New York to be an artist back in the 80s. Dreamer, right? Just a kid. I'm like, oh yeah, let's be an artist in New York. It's a great idea. Creativity is important whatever you do, but you cannot make money. So I always had other jobs, and I got an MFA from Hunter College, which is in the middle of New York City. Important abstract painters there, color field artists, art that grew out of abstract expressionism. And my work tends to be kind of figurative, so I felt a little bit out of place, but I really learned about what contemporary art is about by going to undergraduate and then graduate school at Hunter College in the 80s. It wasn't until 1995 that I learned Japanese woodcut. Previous to that, I was doing intaglio, which is great, very lovely. I love working on copper and putting it in acid and the resists and all the sequential things that help me develop ideas. Printmaking is a great way to develop your ideas. If you're not painting, you just charge ahead. Printmaking, you have to go step by step. And I found that very helpful. So I was a printmaker before I learned Mokuhanga. In 1995, I took private lessons with a guy in New York City named Bill Payton, who had studied with Clifton Carhu in Kyoto. And he was surprised that I picked it up as quickly as I did. And I was working big. And he's like, ukiyo-e are this big. And I'm like, yeah, but Jackson Pollock is like this. So my work was relatively big, considering that was Japanese woodcut. And these are some of my images. They're all different sizes. I just sort of put a collage there. So I thought I knew Japanese woodcut. I didn't know anything. I went to Japan in 2004 with the Nagasawa Art Park program, and that was my first taste of Japan, and I kind of learned how integral Japanese culture is to Japanese woodcut. You can't do Japanese woodcut without understanding something about Japanese culture. So that was real eye-opening. And over the years, I developed a lot of information that I thought would be useful to Western printmakers, like the printmakers I'd been working with in New York City. They had no idea. The people in New York City had no idea what washi was. It just wasn't part of the language. So I felt it was really important to write a book, and I did. And it was published in 2015. I can't believe that was 10 years ago now. here's a picture of the book and some of the artwork that is on the cover. I wrote a lot of articles, like short articles for printmaking magazines. And I really wanted a forum to talk about these ideas that I thought were important for Western printmakers to understand. So I made a proposal. The proposal was accepted, and I worked for 3 years to write this book. And I didn't really make a lot of money on it, but I had a wonderful editor, a wonderful designer, and a wonderful publicist. So what I got for working for low wages was the resources of a major publisher. It was Random House. The imprint is Watson Guptill, but it's actually an imprint of Random House. So it was distributed all over the world. People call me from Paris and say, "Oh, I saw your book in the Louvre." Pretty nice. So I feel very fortunate. It was also before the pandemic, so I did some travel to promote it, and I feel very fortunate to have been able to do that. Also, you can see here some of what I was generating with. I thought Japanese woodcut was very flexible. All 3 of these prints are made with 2 blocks, printed multiple times. So I printed them 4 times in different color combinations and different rotations. And that was not Japanese at all, but something you could easily do with the blocks, with the water-based blocks that I was printing with. How about a little vocabulary? I mean, we're all printmakers here, mostly. You probably know what mokuhanga is. But moku means wood, hanga means printmaking. 3 main characteristics that differentiate it from other kinds of printmaking. It's printed with a buren, a handheld disc for printing. It's water-based, printed with watercolor, gouache, and sumi ink. And it's registered with the kento notch cut into the corner of the block. I outlined it in red there. You can't see it too well. But it's just a little notch that the paper fits in so that you can line up the different colors. Another aspect is that it's best printed on washi. Japanese, and that's what I was saying, Westerners didn't really have much of an idea about what washi was. This was back when I was in school in the 80s and 90s. They didn't know what it was. They would call it rice paper. And of course, it's not made of rice. It's the inner bark of the mulberry tree. And it's very expensive, but very wonderful. The other vocabulary words I feel like I have to go over, just so we're clear. Ukiyo-e is Prince of the Floating World. It's more a style, because it's not just prints. There were paintings and decorative arts that were also considered ukiyo-e. And the example here is Hokusai's Great Wave, which was carved and printed by specialists. You know, Hokusai didn't do it himself. He had a publisher who decided what it should be. He had a carver who would carve his images, and a printer who would print like 200 copies and not do anything else. They were very focused, these specialists, unlike what we do as creative printmakers. Shinhanga is translated as new prints, and the example here is Hiroshi Yoshida. From the early 20th century, now these artists were doing sort of retrospective images of old Japan or images of travel, and they're very pretty generally, and they're also done in a workshop situation with expert carvers and printers. So the quality of the printing is very similar to the ukiyo-e prints, but the subject matter is quite different. And those guys sort of shade into this Sosakuhanga creative print movement, which was sort of a little later. And there was a lot of crossover. There were some expert printmakers who carved their own blocks, and a lot of the Sosaku printmakers would befriend the people, and the master printers and learn from them how to do this stuff. But the example I have here is Shiko Munakata, and that's a huge print. It's like 6 feet tall. And he was nearly blind, and he would sit on the floor and carve with these big tools with Coke bottle glasses and carve these huge, they were Buddhist images. This is an image of warriors shooting flowers at each other instead of arrows. So that's sort of an outline. And here's some tools. We print Japanese woodcut with stiff horsehair brushes to push the color across the block. Come on in. And the soft goat hair bristles. So the Japanese tools are a little expensive, but they're very long-lasting. And what I've found is that Western printmakers love the cutting tools. They're bonded steel for sharpness and strength. So the edge is very sharp and brittle. And if it wasn't bonded to a softer steel, it would chip. And you can see me holding those hands. That's me holding the hangito. That's how you hold it to get the very thin lines like in the ukiyo-e prints. You outline it with that knife. Let's see, I have one more technical. Here's the baren. The Japanese printing tool is composed of the atagawa, a cup-shaped disc made of layers of washi, and the shin, the interior coil of strips of bamboo sheath. So that coil there is made of strips of that sheath thing. Looks like a leaf. It's when the bamboo grows up, it shoots off side things. So everybody says, and this costs almost as much as a press. I mean, they're like a couple $1,000s to get a really good one. But there are less expensive ones you can buy now. Okay. Do you want to see a little printing thing? Let's see, where's this? Quick printing demo. Whoops. Get that arrow out of there. That's the stiff horsehair brush. And you see how my blocks are? I don't carve all the way to the edge. I use kind of floating images. That's just me. And then fitting the paper into the corner, the kento corner. Protective sheet of parchment paper, baking parchment. And that's the baren. Just rub the back so the color comes up into the washi. That's a lightweight piece of paper too, so it bleeds right through. And then to get the gradation, I put a little extra color on and bleed it out with another brush. That's called bokashi, gradation printing. And I just put a weight on the paper so it doesn't shift. And then put that back down and rub it. What I really wanted to focus on tonight is the network of printmakers that Keiko Kadota started and now is this international group that you saw in the first slide. All these 200 people, and many of them are teachers or they influence other people, so it's actually a larger group. But this was all initiated by Keiko Kadota, the Nagasawa Art Park, the Me Lab, and the International Mokuhanga Conference were all started by this Japanese woman in order to promote world peace. That was her stated goal in organizing these international programs. And I thought that was a little crazy when I heard it at first. And now I'm like, hey, that's what we've got to work with. International cooperation and understanding, sharing ideas about art and culture. So she was amazing. I never could have written the book without her support. I mean, who am I to write a book about Japanese woodblock? I do not even speak Japanese. But Keiko encouraged me. She thought there was a real need to promote these ideas. Let's see. Prior to her work, Akira Kurosaki in Kyoto and the Yoshida family in Tokyo offered classes to international students. You could go there and study with those couple of people. But Keiko had these long-lasting programs, and people stayed in touch with one another, so her programs ultimately became more influential. Although a lot of her students also studied with the Yoshidas. Particularly Yoshida, I don't know. Kurosaki, I know several people who studied with Kurosaki as well. Let's see. Many of the artists who participated in her residency programs went on to teach, magnifying her influence. And that's me. That's me at a show. She invited me to Japan for an exhibition to promote the book. I'm so grateful to her. This is when I first met Keiko in 2004. I was so young, but I was older than most of the other people. Keiko wanted to get young people who would have a long career ahead of them. So I was kind of the oldest, and I already kind of knew Japanese woodcut because I had studied with this Bill Payton. You can see in this image from Nagasawa. It's on Owajishima. Shima means island. It was this isolated island, and we worked in a community center sitting on tatami mats. This was 2004. That's Yunmi Nam there. She must have been about like 21, just a kid. And Keiko Kadoda picked her out and knew she would amount to something. And the same is true for that's Katie Baldwin in the blonde hair. And I have stayed in touch with those women. I was just there for a brief time, but that's the print I made using that rotating images. Here's Mokuhanga Innovation Laboratory. After 11 years on Owajishima, the Nagasawa Art Park changed its name to Mokuhanga Innovation Laboratory and moved to Yamanashi, closer to Tokyo, much more convenient. And they had a view of Mount Fuji. I need my water. I should have included a photo of Mount Fuji. It was a beautiful location. And there was a shared, we each had our own bedroom, and then a shared workspace there. This is no longer, but it's set up similarly in the new one. At the same time that Keiko moved the residency to Yamanashi, near Mount Fuji, she also organized the first International Mokuhanga Conference in Kyoto and Awaji. And let's see, she had an international juried exhibition of artists from all over the world who did Mokuhanga. It was in Kyoto, and it included many people who had been involved with her residencies. You can see Karen Kuntz there. The two most important people are Tetsuya Noda in the suit and Akira Kurosaki in the white jacket. Those two were really important educators in Japan who taught Japanese woodcut, and somehow Keiko got them on the board. She had this way of cajoling people, getting them involved in her projects, and she got these very important people involved with her work. And then, so we had this wonderful exhibition in Kyoto, and then we all got on a bus and went back to Owajishima. It was, I don't know, an hour or more, to Tadao Ando's International Conference Center. And we're a small conference. It was, I don't know, 100 people in this huge You know Tadao Ando? Really big deal. And we gave papers. This wonderful man here, this is Hidehike Goto, gave a demonstration of how to make baren. Those are some of the baren. The plural is actually baren because it's a Japanese word. And these are some Australian artists with our sign. And that is our board. We had two very important Finnish artists, Tuula Moilanen and Kari Laitinen, who both have programs in Finland. And they were on the board along with Karen Kuntz. Some of you may know her. She runs a shop in, where is she? In the Midwest.
Nebraska.
Where?
Nebraska.
Nebraska, thank you. Constellation Studios, really good printmaker. And then, that wasn't enough. Keiko Kadota decided she had to have a conference in Tokyo at the most important university of art in Japan. She did not think small. So the next conference in 2014 was in Kyoto in collaboration with Tokyo University of the Arts. At the time, I didn't realize what a big deal it was. And looking back, I'm like, I don't know how she managed that. They had several exhibitions, and Hiroki Morinoe came. See him down next to this Venus? Oh, you're so kind. Thank you. That's the first time I met Hiroki. And we had open portfolio in the plaster cast room of Tokyo Gaidai. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. That's Verrocchio, right? The horse? But Keiko was a little taken. She didn't think that was so serious. She would have preferred a more serious venue. But it was a wonderful place to show work. And we had professional exhibition printers on the upper right. That's the Sato studio demonstrating printing. It's very rare to find professional printers you can watch. They tend to be sort of reclusive. But the Sato studio was active in both those first conferences and generous in sharing their knowledge. But they don't speak English. They're professional printers. They're not creative artists. They're printers. And that's our what do you call it? The board. And that's Sato on the left there. He's the one who took over after Keiko died in 2017. He maintained her programs. Let's see. He continued her programs. And was actually, I think, he did a tremendous amount of organization behind the scenes for this one. I'm still on 2014 in Tokyo. In addition to the university programs, she had a talk about residency programs. That's Keiko Hara talking with John about the residency program she was setting up in Walla Walla. And the lower left is the paper producers, paper distributors who came to show their papers in Tokyo. And we had a talk about paper. It was very dense. And then we got on a bus. Each conference was incredibly multifaceted. So this one, we got on a bus and went back to Mi Lab, near Mount Fuji again. And Katsu Yuasa, he's another one Keiko picked out as a very young man, and he's now quite internationally renowned. Katsu Yuasa. He did a demonstration for us, and that's his work on the right. That's all hand-carved, that lace piece. We also visited Ogawa papermaking, and we also had Shoichi Kitamura did a sharpening demonstration. This was all within the 2014 conference. And at MiLab, the main slide there, she particularly wanted Hiroki and Setsuko to come because she had it in the back of her mind that they were going to do the next conference. She had it all planned. And indeed, it came to pass. Even though Keiko died after she had set things in motion for this 2017 conference in Honolulu, she knew she wanted a conference outside Japan, and she knew she wanted Hiroki and the Morinoe family to host part of it at Donkey Mill. I can't believe it happened. And we had the academic portion happened at University of Manoa with Charles Cohan did a tremendous amount of organizing behind the scenes, setting up the exhibition, the international exhibition, and preparing for the talks. That collage is some of the talks. We gave like 30 slide talks. And then we had the professionals from Japan come and give demonstrations.
What year was that? Cohen did that.
Keiko Harai?
No, Cohen.
Oh,
What year was this?
this was 2017. And we did the first half at University of Manoa.
Because I remember Kunz arrived for one. She was there.
And it was a great success. Well, you can see the Morinoes and Mayumi Oda came to Honolulu for that portion of it. And then we all got a plane and went to Donkey Mill. Like none of these conferences is. I just had to include one slide of some of the art from. This is mostly from that conference, but just to see the variety of artwork, a lot of abstraction, a lot of. Well, there's a Mayumi Oda there. The lower one is a Polish artist. And that's Keiko. I keep putting in Keiko Hara because she's been so supportive. And Chihiro Taki, who did that lower abstraction. The middle abstraction is Keiko Hara. The nice Italian lady is Mara Cozzolino, who helped with a lot of the website assistance. And Hayato Fujioka did the translation. It was a lot of loose ends, everybody pitching in to help make it a success. And you see the variety of work. It was really a wonderful exhibition. And then we got on a plane and went to Donkey Mill. It was quite amazing. And like I say, I think this was the sort of the most inclusive, most fun of all the conferences. And we rented cars and drove to Kilauea. I'm like, it was really, really great. And those of you who know Donkey Mill, they were wonderful hosts for this second part of the conference. And then a little bit more focused on materials. After Keiko died, we lost the person who was so ambitious, and the program continued with Yasuyuki Sato, her partner for the earlier conferences, maintained her program, but rather than but focused on materials. And the 2020 conference got postponed to 2021, and we still couldn't do it in Japan. They were pretty cautious. So we had the conference, and Henry Smith of Columbia University was the keynote speaker, and we did have a group went to Nara to see the ink being made. It's a wonderful tour. If you ever get to Nara, old technology. Let me see. The special thing about the 2021 conference was that since not everybody could go, the chair, who at that time was Ralph Kidgel, and the other board member was Jacqueline Gribben, got everyone to pre-record their talks. So there were 20-minute talks. I think there were about 30 of them. In order to do it online, they had to have everything done in advance. So they worked really hard to have everything prepared. And we had an online Zoom conference in 2021. We had one portion in Japan, in Nara, with a small group. And then we had, I don't know the numbers, like 200 people signed up to do the online. We had the first section was in Japan and Australia, because that was the same time zone, and we presented like 10 papers. The second was in North and South America, and we presented another 10 papers, and then we had Europe. And I think Ralph didn't go to sleep the whole time for like 3 days, because we had this rolling conference. And I didn't sleep a lot. I was helping online, introducing people. It ended up being great, even though it was sort of restricted. And the beauty of it is everything is online. We saved all those short talks. All the short talks are on our YouTube channel. International Mokuhanga Association YouTube channel has documentation from earlier conferences as well, but the complete of this. And Mike Lyon, who helped a lot with the technology, actually published a book that you can download on the website.
So this is during the pandemic then?
This was during the pandemic, yeah. Well, as the pandemic was ending.
Well, you could get into Japan.
You had to have special permission. I think some people
If you were
did go.
married to a Japanese person. Like Henry Smith, you could get in.
Oh, Harry got in, yeah. Okay, so we're getting close to the end. This feels like yesterday, but of course it was a year ago, April already. This was, there she is. Faith made this image. There's Faith with Mike Lyon, and they came to Echizen. And the lady in the pink jacket is another Keiko. Keiko Kobayashi was very essential in organizing everything. And these ladies here are all artists who pitched in and hung the show. And down here we have Katsu Yuasa again. Remember he was in the earlier conference? Very young. Now I guess it was 2014 he was doing demonstrations. And now, 10 years later, he organized 8 exhibitions for this conference in Echizen. And on the left, that's me giving Jacqueline Gribben's, memorial to Ralph, who Ralph died in the meantime, who had been so essential to the earlier conference. So we organized an exhibition of his work, these huge oversized prints that he made at a residency in Thailand. He was experimenting with Thai paper. Wonderful artist, terrible loss to the print world. But wonderful to commemorate him with these big prints. And that's the poster. Katsu made the poster. He did so much for this conference. And Sato organized behind the scenes. And the add-on to this conference, we didn't have to fly anywhere. We just took a bus over a short ways away to see the paper-making village. And Echizen is known as a paper-making center. So a group of us I guess there were two groups. We visited like 3 or 4 of the paper making villages. I tried to make paper at the Udatsu Paper Museum. It's really hard. And you see on the right, they're making, I think this was Iwano. You know, Iwano is the, what do you call them? He's recognized by the government as a master paper maker.
Iwano-san's a big guy.
And I think this is his studio. And 2 people at a time would lift the Sioux out of the paper slurry so they could make these huge sheets. It was really a ballet to watch them working together. Quite amazing to see. Okay, as for the future, what's going to happen? Well, this very young person that I met in 2004 is now a full professor at the University of Kansas in Lawrence, Kansas, and she's taken on the responsibility of organizing the next conference, which will be in Lawrence, Kansas. So it'll be very convenient for Americans. I don't know how many Japanese will come. Hopefully she can raise money to bring some of the experts. But there is a lot of interest in the U.S. in this technique. It's water-based, doesn't take up a lot of space, and it gives you a real strong connection to Japanese culture. So people who are interested in those things will have access at this central location. It's actually kind of a pain to get to for me, too. It's in the middle of the country, so anyone coming from Europe or Asia, they have to land on the coast and then fly to the center. But it will be a really good conference. And Yunmi is doing her best to make it international with a board of international artists who are going to work on it with her. This is
artwork. Was that Yumi's artwork on the right?
That's Yunmi's artwork. You can see how it relates to the work at the Honolulu Museum now.
Yeah, she was a juror here, Carol.
And she doesn't just do Japanese woodcut. I kind of wish she would do more woodcut. But she also does installation and painting and these strange box things. She's big. Complex body of work she's made, not just woodcuts.
She's in the show at
Yeah.
Museum.
And I wanted to mention these other artists. This is a group that Yunmi is quite close with. They call themselves the Mokuhanga Sisters. And they're all quite different. Let's see, American, British, Hong Kong, Japanese, British. It's a bit of a mix. And these women all met one another at the MeLab program and created a collaborative. They do a lot of work together. And you can see how varied their work is. But they'll be helping with the next conference, and I'm in touch with a lot of them for a lot of their projects. Another important aspect of Japanese woodcut is getting it out in the world. This is Florence Neal, director of Kentler International Drawing Space, displaying her work. She shows a great deal of Japanese woodcut at her gallery in New York City. It's in Brooklyn, in Red Hook. In fact, she had an exhibition of Keiko Hara, who I mentioned earlier. Keiko Hara does installation and mixed media Mokuhanga, and also started the Mokuhanga project space in Walla Walla. They had classes, now they have residencies, they have a variety of programs. But she's an amazing, ambitious artist. And that's me with her at Anderson Ranch. She just taught a class at Anderson Ranch, which is another important location for Japanese woodcut. Hiroki taught there for a long time. Okay, coming to the end. This is me. I spent the pandemic in Santa Cruz. You know, I'm a New York artist. I got a degree in New York. I moved to New York. I'm going to be an artist. And then the pandemic happened, and I got stuck in Santa Cruz, California. People had worse. I was in a beautiful place. I was in a beautiful place. I was taking care of my dad. I went out for walks every day. I started photographing birds, but I was caregiving.
Okay.
And that was hard.
Yeah.
So when my dad died, he died in, after the pandemic. I was there. I took care of him during the pandemic. He died in 2021, and I took over his mobile home. And I started doing bird stuff. Because, I don't know, I couldn't deal with humans anymore.
Yeah.
Birds seemed easier to deal with. They have their own problems, of course. But I loved working with and in my own work, I show a lot of the texture of the carving. I like to show how stuff is made, show the décollage, show the carving marks. This is the one that I showed in the demo before. I made a book from those prints. And so I'm still playing with printing floating images on paper, moving them around.
On the left are those ghost prints?
It's not a ghost print, it's just pale.
Oh, okay.
Just very pale. Bokashi.
Those are with Sumi.
Sumi, yeah. Yeah, I was, after the pandemic, I'd used just black. For
Yeah.
a couple of years, I was just everything's kind of black. And this is a series I did in 2024 based on some earlier architectural digital prints. These are 22 inches tall, and they're shinkolade with so it's digital plus woodcut. And that evolved into the smaller prints that are now on display. Well, I got this email from this guy in Honolulu, and he wants prints. I'm like, okay, you want prints? I'll make prints.
Great.
And that started this whole series of botanical with birds. And my last slide, I wanted to invite you to check my website where I have links to all the stuff I've been talking about. If you want to go to a conference or find out about a residency or a class that I've mentioned, I put links all there on my website.